New tonight, information is released on the man who opened fire in a Middleton business. An update on the victim's conditions and a community coming together after tragedy.
And later, experts say it could happen to anyone. A local family out thousands of dollars and their belongings after falling victim to a moving scam.
This is News 3 at 10.
Thanks for joining us. We'll have those stories in just a few minutes.
But first, there is a chance for some severe weather tonight. Let's go right to Chief Meteorologist Gary Canolfi, who joins us in the Weather Center. Gary.
Eric, a tornado watch continues until midnight for the northwestern portion of our viewing area, north and west of the Dells for Juneau and Adams counties, as well as areas further to the west into the La Crosse area. As we take a look at high-resolution Doppler radar, there's a line of thunderstorms running from around Tomah back to just west of Prairie du Chien. The individual thunderstorm cells are heading toward the northeast at about 40 to 50 miles per hour. The line of storms is sweeping off toward the east pretty rapidly. That'll limit the heavy rain extent, but any of these thunderstorms could produce gusty winds, perhaps up to 50 to 60 miles per hour as they roll through, but they should be weakening as they head into the Madison area shortly after midnight. I'll have more details and weather in just a few minutes.
This week's workplace shooting in Middleton. They're going to hold a press conference at 10:30 at the police department.
Today, authorities have identified 43-year-old Anthony Tong as the man who opened fire on his coworkers. Police tell us he started working at WTS Paradigm in April of last year.
But I can tell you that a motive hasn't been determined yet. So the investigators, are still digging for that. Obviously, that's one thing that's on the top of everybody's mind, and we just have not found one yet.
Tong lived in a far west Madison subdivision. Police say he bought this property in July. His neighbors were evacuated last night as police went through his home to collect evidence. They are back in their homes tonight, but shaken.
We never saw the guy. We never met the guy. He has a fenced-in yard. We never saw any animals or pets or kids or anything.
So pretty private?
Yeah.
Tong did not have a permit to carry a gun, but had no criminal record, at least in the state of Wisconsin.
We have continuing team coverage. Madeline O'Neill is at the scene in Middleton, and Amy Reed looks into workplace training options.
Well, let's go to Madeline first, who spoke with some of the first people who were on scene yesterday. Maddie?
Eric and Charlotte, Dimming Way is now open to traffic here, but there's yellow tape still surrounding the parking lot and buildings as officials continue their investigation. Though it's been a trying time for responders such as firefighters here in Middleton, today they're looking at the silver lining.
We train on it, but we lived it yesterday.
All the training in the world.
It's tough. It's tough to wrap your mind around something like this.
Can't completely prepare you for dealing with an active shooter situation.
How can you, really? It's something that everyone, it's the cliche of it can't happen here or it won't happen here. And it happened. It happened here.
But here in Middleton, fire department personnel know that being as ready as possible makes all the difference.
And to see everyone drop what they were doing, knowing that this was a situation where that was unpredictable, completely unpredictable, and nothing we've ever seen before. And to see them all come together like that was really emotional and powerful, and something that I won't lose for a long time.
When the department heard word of an active shooter at an office space Wednesday morning, 40 Middleton firefighters turned their drills into action.
You periodically pause for a moment saying, I can't believe this is happening, but it's happening, so we got to deal with it and stick with the plan.
Seeing his team work alongside all the other agencies is something Fire Chief Aaron Harris won't soon forget.
Pretty incredible. It does pay off to train. Can't thank the officers, the firefighters enough for what they went through.
Now the situation is under control.
We're feeling closer than ever before, and certainly confident that if something like this were to ever happen again, which we certainly don't want that to ever encounter that again, but we're prepared.
But the training never stops.
We're going to train. We're going to continue to strive to be better. So yeah.
The Middleton Fire Department is debriefing, going over what went well with their response and what they might be able to do better if something like this occurs in the future. Eric and Charlotte.
Still pretty amazing how quickly they responded. Maddie O'Neill live at the scene tonight. Maddie, thank you.
Wisconsin U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin says yesterday's shooting shows the need for new gun control measures. She says she's a gun owner, but says the Second Amendment is consistent with stronger safety regulations. A spokesperson for State Senator Leah Vukmir, who is challenging Baldwin next month, says Senator Baldwin is forever giving meaningless lip service to a very serious issue. She isn't serious about solving problems. She's only interested in spewing do-nothing nonsense.
We're told tonight that 3 of the 4 victims remain in the hospital. 2 are in serious condition. A third has been upgraded now from critical to stable condition. A 4th person was injured, but they were treated and released from the hospital yesterday. For years, police officers and sheriff's deputies have offered active shooter training for anyone who wants it.
Since the shooting yesterday, more than a dozen businesses reached out, hoping to keep their workplace prepared. Amy Reed spoke with the Dane County Sheriff and the Madison Police Chief about the response.
We're seeing more and more of these incidents occurring across our country.
Things like yesterday have us all thinking.
As we see these events unfolding with houses of worship, schools, businesses, workplaces, and in all parts of our country, we've come to the conclusion as a nation that no one is immune. We're all susceptible.
It's that has people sitting up and taking action.
You can choose to not be a helpless victim.
We've shown you the classes before, active shooter training, showing you what you can do in case a gunman were to come into your office. Madison Police Chief Mike Koval said they're rare.
You're 6 times more likely to be struck by lightning than you are to be victimized at the hands of an active shooter.
But many agencies offer classes for the just in case. Dane County Sheriff Dave Mahoney said since yesterday, more than a dozen people and businesses have asked them to do one for them.
I think yesterday probably had more of an awakening because it was right here. It was in our home.
He said the key they teach you in these classes is being aware of your surroundings, knowing if and how you can escape, if and how you can defend your space, and how, if it comes down to it, you can fight. He said this isn't just for the workplace, but every place you go.
Yesterday in Middleton, it was a work environment. But we've seen these incidents in our high schools. We've seen them in shopping malls. We've seen them in movie theaters. We've seen them in restaurants. The real key is to be prepared wherever you're at, whatever you're doing.
Of course, there are some things you can't prepare for.
Citizens and first responders alike, you now have a new normal that you put into your life experience, and how do you move forward wrestling with that?
Dane County is booked out through February for these trainings, but many other agencies do them. Chief Koval said Madison Police even has open houses. The next one is November 16th.
We've had that training
Yes, we
here.
have.
It's a very good,
They do a great
very
job.
good program. Amy Reed reporting tonight. Amy, thank you. Police say they hope to have the crime scene investigation wrapped up and WTS Paradigm open by next Tuesday. Many businesses surrounding that building reopened today. Many, like Smoothie King, were placed on lockdown yesterday. And the manager there says it took her a while to figure out what was happening.
That's what's the hardest for me is like this morning, like I was scared, like, you know, what if someone just comes in and now it's like it was right there, right across the street.
Also nearby, a spokesperson from Esker, the software company right in that building, released a statement today saying they are saddened by what happened, but gave credit to first responders. And a 3-year-old Middleton girl also showing her appreciation. Edie made a special card for the Middleton Police Department. Her mom posted this photo of it to the department's Facebook page, one of very many gestures of kindness in our community. And again, police will be holding an updated press conference tomorrow morning, 10:30. We'll bring it to you live on channel3000.com as well as on our Facebook page.
The Dane County Board met tonight to discuss flooding and water levels along the Yahara chain of lakes. The board convened to hear from an expert from the Land and Water Resources Department. After the recent floods, board members have heard many concerns from the public. Questions ranged from specifics about the mechanics of lake levels to what the process of permanently lowering lake levels could look like. But the expert was clear that the system of lake levels is a delicate balance.
It's not just a big extreme event. I mean, the extreme event sets us up, but it's the successive rainfall events afterwards because our system is very slow at delivering water out.
According to experts, it could take months for lake levels to return to minimums, possibly even lasting into the spring.
Still to come tonight at 10, Gary will rejoin us. He'll have our updated forecast.
But first, a call for action, how a moving scam left an area family without their belongings. Stay with us. A Wisconsin man is out almost $10,000 plus all of his belongings after trusting a company to help him make the move to Florida.
The consumer advocates we spoke with say this could happen to you or anyone. Our Leah Linscheid has this call for action report tonight.
I'm a Wisconsin guy through and through.
It's a move Chris Bauman never expected to make.
It was a fresh start I think our entire family needed.
But family circumstances sent his family packing in favor of Florida. Fast forward 3 months, though, 87 days to be exact, and Chris's move isn't over. His Panama City beach house is empty. When Chris first researched moving companies to deliver his family's belongings the 1,000 miles south, he went with Titan Moving and Storage, based in Virginia, with a spotless record in online reviews.
My wife and I even looked at each other, I remember at one point in the call, and said, "This sounds really good."
When the moving truck showed up to his Lake Mills home, though, the company's estimate suddenly doubled.
My price, and they discounted it, still ended up at $12,000. The original estimate, $6,270.
Chris had to pay $9,000 of that up front, but Titan wouldn't take a credit card. Instead, he had to wire transfer the money.
So we agreed to it. Never in my wildest dreams did I still really think we're dealing with somebody that's going to steal our property.
Then, after weeks of waiting and back and forth calls and what Chris considers delay tactics, Chris's family is still without their stuff, upwards of $100,000 of sometimes priceless belongings.
Thank you for choosing Titan Moving and Storage. I am calling on behalf of one of your customers who has not yet received his belongings.
When we tried to call Titan, they refused to give us any information about Chris's case.
This is a form of holding your belongings hostage.
These companies can fool people like Chris by copying someone else's identity.
They will try and hijack those reputable names to give themselves credibility.
There were red flags. There were red flags.
What are some of those red flags that you should catch if you ever consider a move? We asked the folks over at DACAP for their advice.
If they won't come and actually view your belongings to give you a written estimate of what it'll cost to move, they'll just quote it over the phone based on a conversation. That is one initial red flag.
Chris talked to salesmen on the phone who then changed their tune when they showed up.
Do they show up with a legitimate truck that they own, or do they show up with a rental vehicle, such as one that anyone would move apartment to apartment in the same city?
Chris says in his case, it was the latter.
Being in a Penske truck, that should have been a red flag right there.
Maybe the most logical piece of advice?
Checking out their website. That may or may not help you in doing some of that research up front. Do they have a legitimate presence, a real office?
If you're moving across state lines, check to make sure the company's registered with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and check the address of the institution to see if it's even real. Here's a look at the address Titan gave Chris. It's an empty building.
When you've been victimized and you feel the pain of it, you want to become an advocate to make sure this doesn't happen to other people.
Chris isn't sure talking to us will get this company moving to get him back his stuff, but maybe it will warn the next family.
Had I seen stories like this over and over and paid attention to them and heard them, when this move came, I would not have made these mistakes. I would have trusted my instincts.
In Madison, I'm Leah Lynchide with WISC News 3.
Leah will keep trying, and Chris, we appreciate you sharing your story. He says the latest he has heard from this Titan is that his stuff is in a storage garage somewhere in Indianapolis.
The company, though, won't give him that address.
All right, now we want to get to Gary, who is at least watching the possibility of severe weather. Where is that, up north, the tornado watch, Gary?
The tornado watch officially is for areas north of Wisconsin Dells, but we can't rule out at least a chance for severe weather across the rest of our viewing area. Let's start out by taking a look, first of all, at the rain that fell over the last 24 to 48 hours. Southwestern Wisconsin got nailed with anywhere from 3 to 7 inches of rain from central and southern Grant County all the way eastward to between Dodgeville and Darlington and out into the western portions of Greene County. But tonight, a line of thunderstorms will be moving through that area, but fortunately, it's narrow and it'll be moving pretty quickly. The individual thunderstorm cells are heading off toward the northeast at about 40 to 50 miles per hour, bringing the potential for strong straight line winds of 50 to maybe 60 miles per hour, and also the possibility at least for some small hail. But you can see the quick movement of the thunderstorms, so the rainfall that falls from these storms, while it'll be heavy, it will be for just a very brief period of time as the storms move through, and that should limit the amount of additional rainfall, which is good news for southwestern Wisconsin. That line of storms, though, extends from northern portions of Wisconsin all the way back into the northeastern portion of Kansas. Severe thunderstorm watch in effect for parts of southern Iowa, and the tornado watch for areas north and west of the Dells. The highest severe weather threat appears to be in that area, basically along and north of I-90 into parts of central Wisconsin. That's where the tornado threat will be a little bit higher, but I think the main threat is just going to be from straight line winds and maybe a little bit of hail as that line of storms moves through and weakens as we head toward midnight hour and beyond. Live view from the Edgewater Skycam in Madison. Pretty quiet around here. Our low temperature started out at 60 this morning, but our temperatures jumped up into the mid-80s this afternoon when the sun came out and the winds kicked in from the south. We're still at 82 degrees at 10 o'clock. Winds out of the south-southwest at 17 miles per hour. Dew point temperature near 70, so it feels like it's in the mid-80s. By this time tomorrow, we'll be looking at temperatures in the 50s, maybe even close to the upper 40s. So a big change on the way over the next 24 hours. High temperatures only made it in the upper 50s near Lake Superior. We're in the middle 90s across parts of Illinois. Chicago had a record high temperature at 93 degrees today. Current temperatures range from the mid to upper 80s in the Chicago area to upper 50s in northern Wisconsin. And in between, that's where that line of showers and thunderstorms is, ahead of a couple of cold fronts and low pressure system. But notice the difference in temperatures. Already in the 30s over parts of North Dakota. The dew point temperatures that are around 70 here drop off dramatically. So not only will it turn cooler, but the air will dry out, and that will lead to chilly nights as well. So again, tornado watch in effect until 10 p.m. or till midnight for Juneau and Adams counties and areas to the north and west. 61 for the overnight low, a period of thunderstorms with perhaps some gusty winds around midnight or a little thereafter. Tomorrow we only go up 3 degrees to a high of 64, so breezy and much cooler, maybe a shower in the morning. You can see on Future Track that line of storms moving through. This is 2 a.m. You can see it starting to weaken. It pushes on out of here, maybe a few sprinkles tomorrow morning, and then we're just back to cloudy skies, highs mid-60s for tomorrow. And as we clear out tomorrow night, look at the low temperature, around 40 with upper 30s to our north and west. Highs on Saturday only in the middle 60s. Rainfall amounts, because of the fast movement of the storms, probably a tenth to maybe a quarter of an inch of rain. But the 7 to 10 day forecast does put fall-like weather in the forecast. You'll see highs only mid-60s for Saturday, low 70s on Sunday. Brief warm up early next week, and then more 60s and even cooler by the end of the following week.
Wow. All right. Now
Taste
I
of fall
gotta play. I know, it is. Shocking. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Gary. Packers practice today, but it did get Mike McCarthy off the hook from his fellow coaches. The story coming up in sports.
Aaron Rodgers didn't practice again today. He's questionable for Sunday's game at Washington, but everyone expects Rodgers to play. Sounds like cornerback Kevin King isn't quite as fortunate. Mike McCarthy says King will be hard-pressed to play Sunday. Packers went back to a normal practice today after Mike McCarthy canceled practice yesterday. It's rare that an NFL head coach would give up an on-the-field day of practice during the season, but McCarthy thought his team needed a bit of a mental break. Still, to not practice, well, McCarthy did get some grief.
I took some ribbing from the coaches, especially after my talk to the team Monday. You know, there was a big emphasis on hard work and some other things, and then to walk in there Wednesday and cancel practice. So we went from one extreme to the other in 2 days. But once again, it was for the right reasons.
NFL tonight, Jets at Cleveland. Baker Mayfield replaced the injured Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, and the Browns are winning. 21-17 Browns late fourth quarter. They just got the ball back. The Browns could win tonight, maybe. Tight end Xander Neville and linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel both listed as questionable on today's injury report for Saturday's Badger game at Iowa. When last we saw the Badgers, a game-tying field goal attempt was sailing wide left, and BYU came away with a 24-21 upset win at Camp Randall. Today after practice, head coach Paul Chryst thought his team did a nice job of moving on this week.
You know, a lot of the messaging and the way that we approach this is not always driven by a win or a loss or, a perceived success, right? You've got to approach it and you got to try to grow no matter what happens. And yet now you got to go do it, and that's why I thought this was a good week of preparation. The intentions were right, guys were working to get better. How does that translate? That's where you get to go play the game, and that's kind of where you're, in some ways that's where you're judged, right?
It's week 6 of the high school football season. It kicks off tomorrow night with the Prep Mania game of the week. Madison La Follette at Sun Prairie live on TVW Channel 14 and live streaming on channel3000.com tomorrow night at 7. Madison La Follette at Sun Prairie. 17th ranked Badger women's soccer team has a match in Ann Arbor tonight against Michigan, but it's a tough night for the Badgers. Off a Michigan corner, it squirts out to Ashley Calcagno, who gets it past Badger goalie Jordan Bloomer. Final score, Michigan 2, Wisconsin nothing. Badgers 1-1-1 in the Big Ten so far. Brewers off today. They'll start a weekend series in Pittsburgh tomorrow night. Today, the Brewers announced tickets for Wild Card and National League Divisional Series games will go on sale September 28th. And if there's a tiebreaker game at Miller Park, tickets will go on sale to Wisconsin residents only Sunday, September 30th. And at the Tour Championship, guess who's the co-leader? Tiger Woods. An eagle on 18 gives Woods a round of 5 under 65. He's tied for the lead with Ricky Fowler. Woods won the FedEx Cup in 2007 and 2009. He'd have to win this tournament and get some help to win this year's FedEx Cup. But after the first round, he's tied for the lead, and we'll be right back.
It's the
You can see on high-resolution Doppler radar a line of storms moving eastward. Storms moving pretty quickly. Might bring some strong gusty winds as they move on through, but the best chances for severe weather staying north of our viewing area. We'll keep an eye on it overnight.
Gary, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Do something good, and we'll see you here tomorrow.